Hello everybody, this is Jason Chapa, your speech instructor. I went ahead and started the broadcast 30 minutes before I said I would because someone in your class told me that y'all were going to be leaving by 1:13 or something. So yeah, from now on I'll go ahead and start doing at least starting at 12:30 to 1, maybe a little less than that. But what I decided to do is, as more people get here, I'll go ahead and use this first time to answer those questions that I got in the emails as well as some text messages. So we'll go ahead and do that. After a few of y'all get here, hopefully I'll just go ahead and explain a few things and give y'all some help for that group culture assignment. I have to stress, very important that y'all get that done because the 4 major projects that y'all will be doing make up a good chunk of your grade, and a lot of students in the past have thought they could get by just doing the weekly activities, but that's not really important. Those are your attendance and participation grade, not the main part of the grade in terms of the 70% that the other projects make up. So first off, what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and open up y'all's Blackboard, and I know I may have sent some of the answers to these questions already to y'all individually, but I'll go ahead and answer them just again so that in case anyone has any questions, y'all can go ahead and let me know. So it's just going to take a little bit of time. I should have probably just opened this sooner. But I do have everything else open, so when it does, when y'all do get here, hopefully we'll be able to get things something like that. But yeah, no viewers so far, that's okay. The point of these is to give y'all just some face-to-face interaction, as well as if y'all do eventually start joining up, good. Hopefully everything's fine in terms of my voice and the video. Sorry the video camera isn't the best condition. Okay, yeah, go ahead and load up the inbox right now. So questions for the project. Now go ahead and answer all the questions that I have. So starting with Arleth, her question is, will there be exceptions for the group projects? Also, will you continue to do videos throughout the entire course? Okay, there won't be exceptions for the group projects. However, if you are having trouble finding a group, you can do the presentation yourself for the first one. It's going to be a lot more work, a lot more research involved. But go ahead and, if you'd rather work alone, I understand, just as long as you can get all the major things completed. For the mock interview, that's going to be something that you'll be able to do by yourself as well. Same thing with the speech presentation. Yes, I will continue doing these videos. Just, they won't be lectures so much as answering y'all's questions. And if there are some areas that y'all don't quite understand, I'll go ahead and lecture through these videos as well. So now, Brittany, I don't know if I missed it or not. Are we going to have like about 5-6 projects? The way the grade is going to be made up for your class is it's going to be 4 major projects: the group culture assignment, the mock interview. Also, you're going to have to interview somebody personally to get more information about a job, so that a personal career interview, and then a speech presentation. So those are 4 major projects. You're going to have 2 exams, which will open up in the beginning, in the middle, and towards the end of the semester, and you'll also have weekly activities that you're going to have to do that make up your attendance and participation grade. So you do have more than 5 to 6 things to do, but there should be enough time to get everything completed, especially if you space it out and don't get too overwhelmed. Now, will it affect us if we have an older version of the book? It shouldn't. Usually, if you're operating with a 4th to 6th edition of the book, you should be able to keep up, as well as answer any of the questions. If you don't have the most current edition and you have a specific question about any of the readings, go ahead and email me or text me or call me, and we can talk about it. So that's one question. The due dates for the week's assignments. All the weekly assignments are due pretty much before the end of the semester, specifically before the last week of class, which is when we take the finals. Be sure you get all the weekly assignments done before that week of finals. Not during, but before, because after that, you're going to really want to hurry up and get all the major stuff that you're missing done. If you haven't completed the weekly assignments by then, it's going to be real important that you might get left behind in terms of stuff that you have to do. So to summarize, in terms of due date for the weekly assignments, get them all done the week before finals, and you'll be okay. I'll still grade it by then. Anything after that, I probably won't grade in terms of those weekly assignments. Okay. Let's see. Do we submit our assignments on the chapters through Blackboard, or do we simply hand them into the instructor in class? Submit everything electronically, because I'm not going to be there. If you turn in stuff to the instructor, there's not a chance that they'll be able to get it to me. So the safest bet is to submit everything through email, through Blackboard. That should be doable. If you have a larger file, usually you can upload those to Google Drive and share it with me. If you have a video that you need to share and it's a large file, you can upload that to YouTube as well. If you do upload your assignments to YouTube, make sure that the videos are shareable by link and that they're not private. If they're private, I won't be able to see them and I won't be able to grade them. But if you keep them only shareable by the link, meaning only people who have the link can view it, then you should be fine. You should be able to keep it out of the hands of anybody. And usually by the end of the semester, you know, if you have anything that you want to get rid of, go ahead. All right, and yeah, and just one last question is, someone asked if they could do the group culture project alone. That's fine, but remember, you do have to cover those 5 areas of information: the verbal, the nonverbal, the interpersonal communication, the gender differences, and the family communication. And we'll talk a little bit more about that towards the middle of this hangout. But you can do it alone. It's just going to be more work. All right, so let me go ahead and check on my iPad, see if there are any text questions that I got, which again, I think I've answered some of the questions I got texted, but just so that everyone knows. All right, so what's the maximum number of students that can be in the group project? There's no maximum, but the perfect size is 5. So each person can get one of those things done. And the minimum should be 3, though. So you need at least 3 people to do the project with. Maximum, no maximum. The coat of arms assignment, like all those other weekly assignments, all of those are due by the end of the week before finals. And also, this person asked, if we do voiceover PowerPoint, how much time should we spend on each slide? Oh, again, 1 to 2 minutes per slide. You don't want this PowerPoint to be too wordy, and you don't want to spend too much time on the PowerPoint. A good rule of thumb, like I think I've said before for PowerPoints, is 1 to 2 minutes per slide, and you don't want a lot of text on it. Instead, you're the one who's sharing the information. I'll go ahead and share my screen real quick to show you a good example of PowerPoint. Okay, here's my PowerPoint. Okay, so you notice this would be a good example of the number of text on a PowerPoint, and you could cover up all these things. This one too, cover all these things within a minute or two. If you want to put important quotes, go ahead, but like I said, you don't want to just have sentences or paragraphs on a PowerPoint slide, because if you do, it's just going to be distracting, and it doesn't make for good PowerPoints. So if you want to use PowerPoints, 1 to 2 minutes per slide, keep your bullet points, maybe even quotes that you're going to say, but don't have a lot of text on. So stop sharing that. Let's see who else. Also, some of y'all asked if you missed this broadcast, if that'd be an issue. If you ever miss any of these broadcasts, they should upload onto YouTube, and you should be able to watch them no problem and get any questions asked or answered. And like I said, I'm trying to review over the questions. I'm just going to double check, make sure that if anybody sent me an email or text. Okay. Hopefully it's not too sad that I'm the only one here talking to myself, but no big deal. No big deal. Still 0 viewers, so hopefully y'all get to watch this. Okay, a few more things. Okay, I think I answered all the questions I got sent. Let me go ahead and review, give you a few websites that should help you with that group culture assignment. Now, if I can go ahead and share my PowerPoint presentation again. These are going to be the 5 things that you're going to cover in that group culture assignment. Verbal communication, which is language, phrases, important slang, as well as curse words. So as long as y'all don't make too much of a show of it, you can curse, but you have to tell us what those mean, and don't be too vulgar about it. But the justification is, if you go to another country, I think you'd want to know if someone calls you a bad word. Nonverbal communication is gestures, body movement, posture, appearance, dress. Gender differences are how men and women treat each other differently. Gender is a cultural construct, so you have masculinity and femininity. Tell us what that means in that country. Family norms and communication. You know, what makes a normal or typical family in that culture? And are there any communication things that we should know about? Finally, interpersonal relationship communication. How do people date in that culture? How do people have friendships? How do they do business? These are the 5 things that you'll have to cover. For each of these categories, you're going to need at least one research source that you cite in that presentation. For instance, you could say, well, according to the CI World Fact Book, in Mexico, they speak Spanish, particularly a dialect unique to Mexico. I'm sorry, I'm just making that up. Because, you know, in Spain, there's all the Castilian Spanish and all these other different types of Spanish. And Mexican Spanish is considerably different from Spanish, I think. So you'd say, according to blah, 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 this information. And you want to do that for once for each of these main topics that you're going to be talking about. Real important. Just double check to make sure that no one's here or someone's here. Anyways, nonverbal communication, you know, according to, say, well, I'll show you a few websites that you can use. But yeah, you're going to need a source for each of these categories. You're going to need to cover them for 2 to 3 minutes each. So your minimum presentation length should be 10 to 15 minutes. And like I said, you could record yourself presenting it, or you could use, let's see, this insert audio button and record yourself or insert yourself having talked over the slides. Just make sure that you can open it on different computers, because if you're going to want that A, you're going to need to have a PowerPoint as well as the audio. So these are the 5 things you'll have to present on the presentation. If you present extra information, that's fine, but it should be communication related. All right, so stop sharing. Now, a few more things, and then I'll go ahead and wrap it up. There's 2 websites that I've found that could really help out with your presentation. I want y'all to consider using these. So let me go ahead and do the screen share for Google Hangouts. But yeah, I don't think I have anything too bad opened up on my browser. First one I want to show you is this site called Quintessential.co.uk. It's spelled KW instead of QU. It's a British company, but they have a lot of good information on particular countries, the various things that you'll need to research on. So this could be one of those 5 sources that you use. So let's say you want to do a presentation on Cuba. Let me go. An easier way to do it is this. Cuba Quintessential. Cuba's ABC of cultures. Yeah, that's someone's. The Bahamas. Let's look at the Bahamas. Okay, I don't know why there's Cuba, but this should be fine. You have statistics, you have languages that they speak, humor. Something like humor could be something that you inform us on in regards to interpersonal communication. It could also be verbal, if there are certain things that they do and do not talk about. Etiquette would be nonverbal that you could talk about. Business etiquette and protocol, this could cover nonverbal as well as interpersonal communications. It talks about the Bohemian communication style. And so yeah, it doesn't have all the information you'd want, but this does cover a lot of information for the country. So that's one website you can use, quintessential.co.uk. Usually if you want to Google something, put quintessential and then the country and you should be able to find it. Another website you can use is gerthofstede.com, and that's spelled GERT-HOFSTEDE.com. And what this finds is that it lectures a lot over what are called cultural values, and the cool thing you can do is you can do a country comparison. So if you have a country you want to present on, like let's say Uruguay against, sorry about that. Let's say you want to compare, you're doing the Ukraine as your country, and you will compare it to the United States, which is a good way to frame your presentation information. But you can see that there are these scores that each country has, and these could be applied to pretty much any culture or cultural value that you're going to report on. So, for example, power distance is whether a country has a lot of divide between its citizens in terms of power. So if you have like a select few at the top who have all the power and everyone else has to conform to them, that's what we would call a high power distance. A lower power distance would mean that it's more democratic. Everyone has a say, everyone has a choice, etc. So high power distance, very authoritarian, very dictatorial, very militaristic in terms of their power sharing. Low power distance, more democratic. And you can see Ukraine, they're all about, there's a very high power distance. And since that comes from a former USSR country, that's something that you could justify that. That would fit into things like interpersonal. It could fit into their nonverbal in terms of their behaviors. Whatever. I'll let you decide where you want to report on that. Individualism is whether a country puts favor on the rights and well-being of the individual or the group. Countries that are very high in individualism, like the United States, they're very me first. Countries that are low in the individualism are more collectivistic. They care more about the group, maybe the social structures like families and so on. So United States, we're very individualistic. We always, like if we have a Super Bowl where a team wins a Super Bowl, even if it's a team game, we always pick the MVP, and they're the one who goes to Disneyland. The Ukraine would be more collectivistic. It's all about the group welfare, all about the well-being of the whole as opposed to the individual. Masculinity is whether a country is more traditional in its gender roles. So United States, we're pretty traditional in terms of masculinity, where we prefer masculine men, feminine women. Ukraine is more accepting of what's called androgyny, which is both genders having traits from the other, or both sexes having traits from either gender. Emotional association with, displaying emotions are usually associated with femininity. Well, with Ukraine, it would probably be more acceptable of that. Okay, still 0 viewers. Okay, another thing, uncertainty avoidance is whether a country likes or doesn't like to be surprised. So countries with high uncertainty avoidance, they like having everything spelled out. They like having everything planned out. They do not like surprises, whereas in countries with low uncertainty avoidance, they're okay with ambiguity. And you can see Ukraine is more, they do not like ambiguity. They like knowing what's going to happen. Whereas in the United States, we're middle of the ground. Long-term orientation is whether a culture is all about the long term, the future, compared to the now, the short term. So Ukraine, they're in the middle, where the United States, we're very now-centered. You know, time is more a finite resource to us. Time is money, so on. Finally, indulgence is whether a country indulges in their more base urges or if they are more, I guess, prudish. Ukraine, they're all about partying, for lack of a better term, whereas in the United States, we're more, you know, yeah, we party, but it's not something we're doing all the time. And I wish I had a better way to describe that. I apologize that I don't. Let me put it another way. Ukraine, since they don't have a, well, hold on, let me make sure I'm getting that right. So yeah, this is all about controlling desires and impulses. Ukraine is, you know, societies with a low score in this dimension have a tendency to cynicism and pessimism. Okay, so I got that wrong. Ukraine isn't very indulgent in their desires and wants and so on. Rather, it's all about being restrictive, controlled. Whereas in the United States, we're a bit more wanting to indulge, which these all kind of fit. So, you know, long term, Ukraine cares about the future most of the time. And as a result, they're not really that indulgent of their desires, whereas the United States, you know, right here, right now, so let's party. And again, I apologize for mixing those two up. So yeah, those two websites should help you with the research. It's 12:51, so I will hang out here a bit longer, hopefully waiting for more people to show up. Let me go ahead and double check to see if anyone sent me some emails saying they joined or some texts. Okay, it's okay if y'all didn't, but hopefully those two websites will help you. Hopefully those that question and answer session will help you. Remember, if you have any other questions, feel free to contact me any way you can, available. And I'm going to go ahead and mute everything now, but if more of y'all show up, I'll be here. So. All right. Is anyone watching? Because I see on one page it says there's 3 viewers. No, one of them's me. There's also Melanie and Brittany. Hello. If y'all have any questions, try and log in pretty quickly. We're gonna start. We're gonna wrap up in 7 minutes. But if y'all do show up a little later, I can talk more. I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna see if y'all can see what I've already recorded. Okay, so apparently it's just that the link on the main page is synced up with what I'm saying. So hopefully once we're done, once we wrap up, we'll go ahead and upload this and I'll share the link with everybody. I think I'll go ahead and stop broadcasting for now because some of y'all may want to just talk and not be recorded, and that's totally fine. But the point of this was to get some information out there and hopefully help y'all out. And again, sorry for the bad quality of my camera. I'll go ahead and mess with that a little later. So yeah, we'll wrap up now. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me, text me, call me, and I'll respond as best as I can. And good luck with y'all's work. Have a nice week. Goodbye.